Between Xbox and PC, I have spent nearly 1,000 hours of my life playing The Binding of Isaac. I think it's a great game. That said, I also think Isaac is an example of a game that is massively held back by some baffling design choices. Probably the biggest offender of this is the inclusion of curses. In case you don't know what curses are, or you did know what curses were until you blocked them out of your memory as a trauma response, curses are sort of a negative modifier that can be applied randomly to a floor. On hard, which is the difficulty you will be forced to play on to unlock many of the game's items, curses have a 1 in 3 chance of appearing on a floor. This means that on an average run, a player will play through 3 floors containing a curse. That's a lot of time spent with curses, and let me tell you, curses are not fun. There are 6 different curses you can encounter in a run. Curse of the Blind, Curse of Darkness, Curse of the Lost, Curse of the Maze, Curse of the Unknown, and Curse of the Labyrinth. Before I really begin, it's important to note that this is all opinion-based. I have seen people, for example, users on the Binding of Isaac subreddit, defend curses heavily, so there definitely are curse enjoyers out there. Let me get the positive curse out of the way. Curse of the Labyrinth is in no way frustrating. Curse of the Labyrinth makes it so any chapter with 2 floors can be combined into one big floor. Now, this does have some minor downsides. For example, you only have access to 1 shop for the chapter instead of 2. But that is massively outweighed by the upside of the curse. The big floor that you get is smaller than the 2 separate floors you would have gotten. If you really stretch it, you could argue that this is a bad thing because less rooms equals less rewards. But realistically, this is a good thing because it makes you clear the floor faster, which means you beat the run faster, which means Curse of the Labyrinth respects the player's time. It really doesn't even feel like a curse as much as it does an alternative floor type. Alright. With that out of the way, let's tackle the rest of the curses in order. Curse of the Blind makes it so all items have their sprites replaced by a red question mark, meaning you don't know what you're going to get before you pick it up. I think the design philosophy here is that it's supposed to force players to play with items they otherwise wouldn't pick up, which wouldn't be terrible if it weren't for the fact that some items can straight up ruin your run. For example, if you have Curse of the Tower, Sad Bombs, and Ipecac, picking up Scatter Bombs means you have assembled Explosion Exodia. And the result of that is funny, but the outcome doesn't really go in your favor. As another example, a more plain example, if you pick up TM Trainer at the start of your run, it means you're probably going to have a run that is practically impossible to win. And, you know, again, funny, but kind of unfair.
Okay, I would say step 1 is probably take out Blue Baby. Bro, that was the trophy.
While the odds of Curse of the Blind ruining your run are admittedly pretty low, the fact that it can happen at all feels pretty bad. If you care about your win streak, which is actually incentivized as the game tracks your current and highest win streaks, the optimal strategy is to not take any items from floors affected by Curse of the Blind, besides items from the boss pool, as none of them have major downsides. This feels terrible, as gathering items during your run is one of the main aspects that makes Isaac fun. Curse of the Darkness, aka Curse of the good luck playing on screens affected by direct sunlight, makes it so the screen is darker. Yeah, that's about it. Curse of the Darkness is one of the worst designed curses. In my opinion, something is poorly designed if it randomly takes away a quality of life feature from the player for the sake of artificial difficulty. In this case, Curse of the Darkness takes away your ability to see the game. I think the thought process behind this curse is something along the lines of, if the player can't see enemies, the enemies are more difficult, therefore, the game is harder. But it's such a lazy way of creating difficulty. For a comparison, let's look at Super Mario Maker 2, a game with a similar darkness effect. If a maker specifically builds their level with the darkness effect in mind, it can be used creatively to make a fun and unique experience. Or it could simply be tacked on to an existing level, which is basically what Isaac does. The vast majority of players above the age of 8 agree that your standard Mario level is made worse if you put a darkness effect on it.
This might be one of the most unenjoyable levels I've played. Like, it's straight up not fun. It's terrible. It would have been like a great level if you just had light. That's all you had to do, just turn on the light and it's a fantastic level. And you just ruin it.
And I genuinely fail to see how it's any different in Isaac. Curse of the Lost removes your map for the duration of the floor. This makes it so you're highly likely to get, well, lost on larger floors. Backtracking is a big part of Isaac's gameplay. Sometimes you will want to return to a blood donation machine to get some money before heading to the next floor. And points of interest like that are generously marked on your map. You know, the map that Curse of the Lost eradicates. So you have two options. 1, mentally map out the floor, or 2, manually map out the floor using an Excel spreadsheet or something. This curse does technically have an upside. Being that floors affected by Curse of the Lost generate a few extra rooms, this means that you can get a few extra drops from clearing rooms, which can make a significant difference, especially on the first few floors. But what do you think Edmund Macmillan thought when he implemented this? We need to put in a positive aspect to this curse because it sucks so much? Or wouldn't it be funny if the map was larger so players got lost more easily? Because let me tell you, it's not the first one. Curse of the Maze makes it so when you enter a room, there is a chance for you to enter another room instead. It also sometimes switches room layouts around, so when you want to backtrack to a specific room, you sort of have to chase it around the map. I don't have much to say about this one, it's just, why is this in the game? And finally, Curse of the Unknown takes away your ability to see how much health you have. This curse is a quality of life removal that can be easily countered by manual work. If you ended your last floor with 3 hearts, and on this Curse of the Unknown floor, you get hit 1 time, you now just have to remember that you have 2.5 hearts, instead of just having the ability to glance and see your health on the screen. There are items, such as Missing No, that can shuffle your health upon entering a floor. So in that case, you have literally no idea what your health is, meaning the safest way to play with this curse is to not take any risks, which, in a game like this, is very unfun. So yeah, overall, I genuinely think curses add nothing substantial to the game, and any upside they have is massively outweighed by the negatives. And the negatives are mostly just the player becoming annoyed. Video games are supposed to be fun, and in my opinion, curses strive to make the game aggressively less fun. Alright, with that ranting out of the way, let's talk about solutions. There is at least one more update coming to Repentance, and I seriously hope the Repentance team takes the opportunity to rework curses somehow. So here are my suggestions. 1. There is an item in the game called Black Candle, which removes curses from your run and provides 1 black heart and an increased deal chance. What they can do is remove curses from normal play entirely, switching the effect of Black Candle to be curses can now appear rather than curses can no longer appear, and give the other effects a buff too. This makes curses an opt-in mechanic, rather than a mechanic that is forced upon the player at random. 2. Add upsides to curses. For example, they can make it so completing a Curse of the Lost floor gives them one of the map items on their next floor. So it's basically temporary pain for permanent gain. No, but curses are supposed to be bad! It's in the name curses! It's supposed to be negative! Listen, motherfucker. It's a video game. You could stretch the definition of a word for gameplay purposes. Anyway, 3. This one is my favorite solution because of how clever it is, and seems like a great compromise between keep curses as is and remove curses entirely. There is a mod on the Steam Workshop called Cursed Trapdoors. This mod makes it so curse generation is tied to individual trapdoors rather than floors, meaning if you see a trapdoor with a curse you don't like, you can try to find or generate another trapdoor to make your next floor more bearable. I think this mod is brilliant. It adds predictability to curses, makes the choice between the normal path and the alternate path more interesting, buffs some of the weaker elements of Isaac, such as dirty bedrooms, and more. This mod adds strategy and removes frustration. The developers should just take Cursed and implement it directly into the game, which can happen given that it was recently revealed that there is still a to-do list for the Binding of Isaac. Those are my thoughts on curses. If you watched the entire video and they were in the midst of typing, "Skill review! Curses are what make Isaac unique! Get good!" You have the right to feel that way. Just as I have the right to take a comment and nuke you from my channel entirely.